What piece of advice might you give to somebody that wants to follow maybe the same path as you?
Wow, that's a great question. You got me here. I need to put a little bit of thought into this. Um, I think we've talked about a little bit about falling in love with the sport and falling in love with the process. That's a huge part of it.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hook, Line, and Shifter, brought to you by yours truly, Bob McCarty. In this episode, we are going to wrap up the final two stages, Stage 6 and Stage 7 of the 2026 Absa Cape Epic, and I'm going to have my teammate on, Randy Egues. In addition to that, another Moto Monday. This one is actually going to be pretty good. A different perspective, kind of get a feel of what the trail is actually like. And I'm going to tackle Deer Island. Deer Island is one of the harder trails. Not technically hard, but a lot of trees, a lot of roots, things like that you're going to really want to try and pay attention to. My 3 L's, we call it: lines, legs, and limbs. I'm going to go over every one of those details again. As always, I can't do this without my fine sponsors. Please support them whenever possible. Orcus Technologies, ESI Grips, U-Cycling, MASH Mobile Vet, POC Helmets, Envy Wheels, Pirelli Tires, and of course, Absolute Black. And in some of those select websites, don't forget, use that discount code HLS2026 to get yourself 20% off site-wide. All right. In the other episodes, we've been talking about the Absa Cape Epic prologue and 7 stages after that. In the prologue, we were at Marindale Wine Estates, 57 minutes. 12.5 miles, 1,400 feet of climbing. Stage 1, Montague, 4 hours and 48 minutes, 55 miles, 7,035 feet of climbing. Stage 2, we stayed in Montague, 4 hours and 54 minutes, 62 miles, 7,400 feet of climbing. Stage 3 is when we left, went from Montague to Grayton. 5 hours and 15 minutes, 88 miles, 5,800 feet of climbing. Stage 4, Grayton and Grayton. We looped, stayed in the same camp. 4 hours and 33 minutes, 55 miles, 6,000 feet of climbing. Stage 5, the Queen's Stage. This is the one where Randy crashed. Stage 5, 7 hours and 11 minutes of racing, 83 miles, 8,400 feet of climbing. In the last episode, this is the one that cracked me really, really bad. And the final 2 stages, Stage 6 and Stage 7. Stage 6, we finally made our way to Stellenbosch, and we looped in Stellenbosch, as well as Stage 7, we looped in Stellenbosch also. You're going to hear this in the interview with Randy, but not a very eventful stage for us. It was 5 hours and 2 minutes, 48 miles, 6,600 feet of elevation gain or climbing, max speed 34 miles per hour, average speed of 9.9 and P21. My fitness at the end of this day was 156. Pretty good for you Training Peaks guys and girls out there. And my form was a negative 61. P21. Why P21? Randy was beat up. He was beat up. This was the first day after the crash on the Queen stage where everything really started to set in. The pain started to set in, and he struggled. He struggled a lot. It's going to be interesting. Really pay attention to the interview with Randy, because there's a take on it of what I experienced that day and shared with Randy on that day, which I think made a difference to be able to get us through. Fun single track climbing. Yeah, what can I say? It's climbing. Technical climbing, sure, but the single track was an absolute blast. So much fun. Groomed berms, jumps, fan sections that you could air things out. It was really a great stage. And to end it with getting back into Stellenbosch was even better, because that camp was just beautiful. From there, we were on to the final stage. So this is Saturday night, dinner, rest, and get ready for that final stage. The final stage, again, we stayed in Stellenbosch, where there's absolutely beautiful town, beautiful single track. Unfortunately, in this day, Randy wound up getting his second crash. In his second crash, again, I'm gonna leave this one to the interview. Watch the interview. You can talk. We'll hear all about the details of what happened on this day. But on this day, the final stage of the 26 Absa Cape Epic, it was 3 hours and 22 minutes in the saddle, 36 miles, 4,800 feet of elevation gain, minimum temperature of 64, max temperature of 86. Our max speed was 31, average speed of 10.7, and we finished P13. This one, we wound up picking up a couple spots. Randy finally got taped up correct. Some of the therapies he had on his knee was starting to take effect, that we were able to push pretty good on this final day. As far as numbers, again, for you Training Peaks people, 156 was my fitness, and my form right around negative 59. What does negative 59 means? It means when I wake up, you don't have a choice. This is no matter what I did yesterday or what we have to do tomorrow, it's irrelevant. So negative 59, sure, fatigue in the legs, but that doesn't really matter. Fun stage. One of the eventful things in this stage was it was very similar to stage 6, and we're coming back down the mountain, and the camp was off to the right side. And we get to this group of people, and I'm looking off to the right, and I see the camp, and I'm like, no, this is way too early. We shouldn't be here just yet. Shit, maybe Randy and I made a wrong turn somewhere. Sure enough, we get to this group of people, a group of flaggers, and what do? They turn us left. Oh, I forgot to mention that I got a new guest here with me. A new guest. She wants to hang out. That's Latoya. I don't know what she's gonna do. Change in position, maybe, because she was tired. But my biggest fan, newest addition to the show. So, anyways, we get back to these people, and as soon as we get to people, if we were gonna go right, we were actually going back to the camp. Sure enough, we turned left. I'm like, whew, okay, perfect. We didn't make a wrong turn. Unfortunately, climbed back up the mountain again, but went to some amazing, fast, fun single track. Bomb back down the mountain and wrap up the Cape Epic. So overall, the 2026 Absa Cape Epic, Randy and I did it in 36 hours and 4 minutes, 440 miles, 52,000 feet. She's had enough. 52,000 feet of climbing, P8 overall in our class, and then 95 in GC. But most of all is the fact that my bank account's $10,000 less. What can I say? Fun trip. I do recommend it. Challenging as hell. Really pay attention to this interview that I have with Randy, and you get a chance to see exactly his take on everything that we went through. So that's it. That's a wrap up of the 2026 Absa Cape Epic. Again, biggest thing from my form, negative 59 on the final day. TSS for the week. I think I got 2,200 TSS for 7 days for that 7-day week. 2,000, I think it was 2,350 for the entire 8 days of actual racing. That's it. Absa Cape Epic in the books. I have no idea. I have no idea what she's doing. I invite a special guest, and this is what I get. Hangs out for a minute and decide that she's had enough of me. All right, that's okay. Strive for perfection. And if you don't achieve it that day, settle for excellence. This was a quote from one of my clients. Thank you, Alex. Meant a lot to me when he said it. And the idea is strive for perfection. In the interview with Randy, you're going to hear him talk a little bit about it also. Strive for perfection and settle for excellence. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Alex. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. What I've been waiting for 4 days or for 4 episodes. Let's check out this interview with Randy Egues. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, and as promised, I have another amazing guest on today. I thought it seemed fitting to have, for the last 4 episodes, I've been talking about the Absa Cape Epic. And I thought, man, what a better way to wrap up the final episode with having on none other than my partner for the race, Randy Egues. He's competed in 5 Cape Epics, 2 of them with me, 3 of them with other people. He's competed for well over a decade now, a specialized athlete. He's been racing for Max Cycle and Fitness for most of his career. We'll get into some of the details about that. I've been very fortunate over the last decade, probably longer than that, to have traveled the world with Randy. But most of all, he's my friend that is game for anything that I throw out there having to do with racing our bicycles. It brings me great pleasure to introduce Randy Egues to Hook, Line, and Shifter. Randy, thanks for taking your valuable time today to come and hang out with me on this final episode of HLS with the 2026 Absa Cape Epic wrap-up.
Oh, man, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we really get into the full details, because again, I've spent the last 4 shows talking about all the details and everything, all the trials and tribulations, everything that you and I went through this year for the Epic. Before we get into that, tell the fans or everybody out there a little bit about yourself, and then how did you get into this sport of mountain biking? Start with a little bit of your background.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I spent my high school years playing the typical team sports. I was a big football player, had aspirations of going to play college football, but was pretty beat up at the end of my high school career. At that point, surfing kind of took over. I had started surfing when I was 10 years old, and I really occupied most of my time, especially after high school, after football was over, surfing. I'd be out before the sun came out and surfing out at South Beach and traveling all over the Caribbean and Central America and out to the West Coast to simply get waves. And then in around 2010, I was sitting in my office. I won't forget this. I was sitting in my office at the Orange Line extension of the Metro Rail project. It was a huge project that took about 3 years of my life.
You're a construction guy. What do you do?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I was working in construction management. I kind of fell into construction management after graduating college. And I'm sitting in my office and I get a phone call from a friend, and he tells me, "Hey man, they just opened up some mountain bike trails by your house." I was living in Coconut Grove, and they had just opened up Virginia Key. So it must have been right around 2010, 2011.
Wow.
Um, and he said, I know you got that old mountain bike of yours in storage. Go grab that mountain bike. I got myself a 29er. We're going to go ride. And I said, what the hell is a 29er? And well, I guess the rest is, you know, me trying to figure out how to ride a mountain bike. And in my typical nature, I got a big,
What was that bike in storage that you actually had to drag out? Do you remember?
yeah, it was a specialized rock hopper that I
Okay.
bought, I want to say in 95, 26-inch rock hopper, all aluminum. And I use it mostly to, ride around the neighborhood and out to friends' places and stuff like that, just to get some exercise. I really was doing very little off road. I may have taken it to Olita a couple of times, not even Amelia. I may have taken it to Olita a couple of times. And so I started out riding with friends. I eventually got myself a 29er, and I got a little too competitive, and my friends decided that they didn't want to ride with me much more. And so I entered some dirt crits that a lady by the name of Steffi used to put on at Virginia Key on Wednesday nights.
Okay. I remember those back in the day.
Yeah, that was, they were a lot of fun, and I won the series just because I showed up every week. It really, I had the most points because I had the best attendance, I guess, is why I won. But I asked Steffi. I said, Steffi, I'd really like to learn how to race my bicycle. What can I do to learn how to race my bicycle? Thinking she would say, well, I'll coach you, but she didn't. She said, go find Bob. I said, I said, okay, who's Bob and where do I find him? She said, well, go out to Amelia. He'll be in a white van. He's got long ponytail. Just go ask Bob. He'll teach you how to race a bicycle. And what it take, I must have, I tell people I had to throw myself out in front of your van to get you to coach me. Because I think the first time I went, you said, "Oh yeah, just give me your phone number," and you wrote down my phone number, and a week went by, and you didn't call me, so I went back out there in typical fashion and said, "Hey Bob, what's going on? You're gonna call? Oh yeah, no problem. I'm gonna call you," and you didn't call, and then finally, I think on the third
I
attempt,
sound like a real dick.
well, no, I mean, I I know things that most others don't know. We've been friends that long, but I remember you telling me, "Hey, November 27th, 3 o'clock, you be here at Amelia. We're going to start training." I said, "Okay." And I had
Okay.
just got back from surfing in Barbados a couple of days before, and I was like, "Well, at 3 o'clock, I got to be there. I'm going to miss my opportunity." And I guess the rest is history, right? From there, you started coaching me, and eventually, I think we took our first national trip together when we went out to Sea Otter in 2013. I think that was our first big trip together.
Okay.
And what where haven't we gone, right?
Yeah.
All
This is
over the
true.
US, out to Europe, out to South Africa. I mean, it's been an incredible Canada. It's been an incredible journey.
Where I didn't when I put all this together, I didn't realize that it was that long ago, 13 years ago or 15 or 16 years ago that you started riding. I was smiling a little bit at the beginning of the introduction because you said I was big into football, or I was big, I don't know how you worded it, but it made me smile for a second because um it's twofold in that you say you were big into football, but you were big while playing football, and now you're a buck 60 and racing mountain bikes. What was the transition from being a bigger guy and then all of a sudden realizing that this just doesn't work? And when you started in 2010, obviously you weren't as big as you were when you were into football. But I do recall when we first became friends and started riding, you were a little bit on the bigger side. What was that first experience like compared to the how you are now when you talk about watts per kilo, obviously?
Oh wow. I mean, so I guess at my peak playing football, I was about 250 pounds. So take my frame and add about 80 pounds to it to get there. I mean, it's for me, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm not a big guy, as you can tell. but I was able to put on a ton of muscle. It was almost like, if I looked at a weight, I'd put on muscle. It was kind of that. That's what I had genetically. And then when we started riding, I was probably my lightest that I had been in probably since grad. Well, I was probably the lightest I had been since the seventh or eighth grade, and I think I was, high 180s, low 190s
Wow.
when we started riding. And I think, or I know now, my race weight is about 165. And I tried to do it. I tried not to put myself on any kind of crash diet or really think about, hey, I got to lose weight or I got to get to this weight. It's really kind of been organic. I obviously watch what I eat. I eat clean, and I give my body what it needs in order to perform day in and day out. But I'm not a counting calories type of guy or anything like that. I will also say that in in my wildest thoughts would I have imagined that I could be 165 pounds at 49 years old. But here we are, right? Here we
Right.
are.
The so you just referenced 49 years old. So the way for those of you out there that don't know, we generally race for a governing body called USA Cycling. USA Cycling, our age is reflecting of that of January 1st, what our age is of that year. So Randy's saying he's 40, he's currently 49, but in November he actually turns 50. So he's very fortunate in my opinion, to be a young 50-year-old this year. So for every race that he chooses to line up for this year, he's in a 50 to 59-year-old category. Is that good? Sure. Is it bad for Randy? Maybe. There's a lot of big hitters in that 50 plus, but I know Randy's up for the challenge. So he is stepping into the 50-year old category, and we do have I might as well go into it right now. I think the next big race for us, or the next big race for you, is getting ready for Marathon Nationals in Roanoke, Virginia. You missed it last year because you had some heart issues that you had to get fixed. But this year you're going up and have to line up with that 50 to 59-year-old category. What is your and what is your thoughts and what is your preparation going to be like to get ready for that day? It's approximately 8 weeks out for us right now.
Wow. So honestly, right now, the next thing on my radar is the Unbound 200. So really,
Oh,
my
right.
right now is kind of geared geared towards going out and riding 200 miles in the Flint Hills of Kansas, which is, I mean, it couldn't be more different than what we'll see in Roanoke, right? I unfortunately did not get to go last year because I had a surgical procedure to fix my heart, as you stated. And so I really don't know what Roanoke is going to be like. I do know that it's going to be the typical marathon mountain bike course, right? Technical East Coast marathon mountain bike course, better said.
Right.
It's going to be technical, it's going to be steep, it's going to be rocky, it's going to be rooty. And really, my training will shift after I come back from Emporia, Kansas, and it'll get a little more intensive, more towards what I was doing for the Cape Epic. Really, the Cape Epic is marathon nationals every day for 8 days or for 7 days. Although we do have the stages are usually a little bit longer, and you do get a lot more double track and rolling terrain. But I think that the preparation for me will be very similar, except that I'm going to look for a little more explosivity because I only have to race for one day, right? We only got to race for 3 or 4 hours. I don't know how long the race took last year, but I don't need that huge engine that we needed to get through the Cape Epic, of course.
And this is for the Unbound 200. This is how many for you now?
This will be my fourth. This will be my fourth Unbound 200. Yeah,
I
yeah. So
I can I can honestly say I have zero. Obviously I've got friends like you and I got clients that are heading out there to do it. I have zero desire. Even though you've tried to persuade me into it before, I have zero desire to sit on my gravel bike for 200 miles in the middle of Kansas. I don't know. I just don't. I don't want to.
It's getting tougher for me to want to do it. After racing the Epic, I mean, I love racing my mountain bike so much more than I love racing a gravel bike. I mean, it's the God honest truth. I mean, the technical aspects of racing a mountain bike are non-existent on gravel. I mean, the truth is that I'll be going in a straight line for 50 miles at a time. It seems like I'm lucky if I get a couple corners in where I can really take any advantage of my technical skills. It's really tough. It's getting tougher for me to do these gravel events, but with the Unbound 200, I've got 600 miles under my belt, and at 1,000 you get a chalice. And I was like, well, I'm more than halfway there, so let's do two more. So I'll do it. I'll do it this year, and I signed up this year and thinking, well, I'll be the young guy in the 40 class. But unfortunately, as I learned over at the Sea Otter Classic, Lifetime does your age on race day. So unfortunately, I will be the old guy in the 45 to 49 class rather than the young guy in the 50 to 54 class. But that's all right. That
Let me
doesn't
let
change
me
race
let
day.
me clarify. Let me clarify something there. So there is. Well, I started with the USA Cycling, and Randy misspoke just for a second. He's in the 50 to the. He thought he was going to be in the 50 to 59 category. The young guy in the 50 to 59. You said 40. You said 40 to 49. So you actually have to race your age. If in fact the event is not a USA Cycling event, it's what is your age as of race day. So now instead of being a 49-year-old racing a 50 to 59-year-old category, which he thought he was doing at the Sea Otter this year, they don't follow USA Cycling rules. So now he's a 49-year-old racing a 40 to 49-year-old category. It's completely different. And the other reason is you could be racing a 40-year-old at 49. Fortunately for Marathon Nationals this year, you get to be a 49-year-old that's racing a 50 to 59-year-old category. I'm not sure, is it 50 to 50, 50 to 50? No, it's 50. I'm sorry, it's 50 to 54. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to be the young guy of racing with us. So I guess that was going to be my next question. If the Unbound 200 is such a daunting thought for you, then why are you doing it? But if you want to achieve that 1,000-mile goal, then that sounds like it sounds like you don't have a choice but to go back next year and get that 1,000-mile buckle. The
I didn't say I was going to go back next year. I said I'd go back, but next year, next year might be a little too soon. We
Okay, so
we
some
gotta get
you're
at
not
some
you're not
point.
getting
Yeah,
you're not getting any younger though.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Nice.
fortunately, at Unbound, it's 5-year category, so I'm at a little lesser of a disadvantage than if it were a 10-year category. But nonetheless, I'll be the old guy in the class this year.
All right. Okay. So you're 40 to 49-year-old category. You're the old guy in that 5 year increment.
Yeah.
Okay. So you hinted a couple times into the Cape Epic. Whole reason, one of the main reasons that I'm having you on the show today is because I've rattled off everything that I've experienced in going back to it with you this year. Randy and I first went to the Cape Epic in 2019 together in the 40 to 49-year-old category. After that, we decided that when he turned 50, which racing age for Cape Epic follows the USA Cycling rules. So he turned 50 for this year. So we went back for the 50-year-old category. In the last four shows, I talked about everything that I experienced, everything that Randy and I went through. He's done five of these things, two of them with me and three with other partners. So I thought, what a better way to wrap up this final Cape Epic recap show than having Randy on. So Randy, what I want to do is I have a bunch of notes to myself of what we experienced or exactly what happened in every one of the stages. If you don't remember something, it's perfectly fine too. But I want to go through from the prologue all the way to stage 7 and just get if there was anything that really stood out for you. At the end of the entire thing, we'll do a little bit of a wrap up and listen to what your training has been like to get yourself prepared for for the Cape Epic this year. And then I'm curious if you wanna go back to do it again. Not with me. I'm out. I said that. I've said that from day one. Don't ask me. I'm not going back. Maybe the Swiss Epic, maybe Swiss Epic with you next year. So having said all that, the first day for us was the prologue. The prologue is a short stage. And Randy, if you don't recall, I'm going to give you the facts. It was a 57-minute stage for us, 12.3 miles, 1,400 feet of climbing. Minimum temperature was 95, max temperature was 104 degrees. We finished P8, and I have my fitness and my form number, but it doesn't really matter. Anything stand out for you from the prologue about how you felt, what you were thinking? Take us through your emotions.
So like for me, the prologue is like getting shot out of a cannon, right into the center of the cycling world. You know, the Cape Epic has become such a huge event that it really is. You know, they're all eyes are on the Cape Epic for that week, and the prologue being so short. You know, being more of an XCO type effort. It's for me, it's like getting shot out of a cannon, right? It's full gas. You know, you're on the limit for that 1 hour. You know, we were fortunate enough to go under an hour, but you're on the limit, and you're not going to win the Cape Epic at the prologue. You could lose it, but you're not going to win it there. But that doesn't make it any less important or any what's the word I'm looking for? You're not any more conservative because it's day one, right? It's you go full gas, and you kind of set the tone for what your week's going to be like. If I had to say that I recall anything, I recall the heat. I remember it being really hot. I remember us going up the that one main climb on the second half of the course, and it was sweltering. You know, we were going through those paver switchbacks, and the sun was
Right.
just down on us. And you know, fortunately, there were people around, and they had that one cheer section to keep us going. But I do remember the heat, and I was, you know, afterwards I was thinking to myself, you know, we're pretty fortunate being from South Florida. Yeah, we came out of winter, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like someone that's in Europe or somewhere else in the northern hemisphere where they're coming out of winter and getting thrown into 100-degree day. I mean, they would that could break some people for certain.
Right. I don't. And I agree with you. I think the main thing was it was hot that day, but I don't think it had affected our performance that day. I think we ran pretty much a flawless day, switching off on who was stronger at any moment for climbing, single track, whatever it is. We had a pretty good program going together. So this was at a winery, and that winery there was zero trees, zero shade. So it was full sun from the time they say go. We're standing in a chute that's covered. As soon as they say go, you're out in the sun, and then that's it. 57 minutes in the sun. Again, P8. Not a very like uneventful, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to either one of us. After the prologue, we had a shuttle, or we had a driver take us to the first location. The first location was Montague. Montague was about a 2 hour drive. In this case, we stayed in camp, so it was a Montague to Montague loop. And this time it was 4 hours and 48 minutes. This is considered stage one now. So you have prologue and 7 stages. We did it in 4 hours and 48 minutes, 55 miles, 7,035 feet of climbing. Minimum temperature 63, max temperature of 95, average speed 11.7. P7 is what we finished there. Anything that you recall from that first stage?
Well, you know, the first stage one, the only thing I recall was the last climb into camp. I remember we had I was pretty worked at that point. We had been working pretty hard early in the stage. There was some flatter rolling type stuff, which was kind of where I sat in the front. And then we got to the last climb. It was a single track climb. And we came out of this single track climb and they dumped us into what looked like a rock field, a washout uphill, washed out rock field, where we barely knew where to go. We were like, wow, this was a real kick in the you know what. And we got ourselves through there. And I think that was the only thing that was really remarkable about stage one. Everything else kind of was typical of the Cape Epic. You know, nothing really stood out at stage one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, for me, it wasn't necessarily about the actual race. For me, it was the heat. When we were done racing and went back to the tents and tried to relax, I just remember the heat just pouring, just not being able to get comfortable because it was so damn hot. All right, I agree. Not a whole lot happened in that stage. All right, stage two, we were still in Montague, and we looped in Montague also. So we went Montague back to Montague. In this particular stage, Randy and I did it in 4 hours and 54 minutes, 62 miles, 7,400 feet of climbing, minimum temperature of 68, max temperature of 82, average speed of 12.7, and we finished P6. Tell me what you thought about on stage two.
You know, I really don't remember stage two. I hate to admit it, but you know, it all kind of. I remember stage three. I got plenty to say about stage three.
Yes.
I remember stage two. Again, we ended up on that same single track climb at the end, and I was pretty cracked by that point. But they didn't dump us into that stone section, so that was nice. But I can't really recall
So
any details about stage two. Can you?
yeah, let me see if I can refresh your memory because I have notes to myself that I called this day a gravel race. We spent so much time out on fire roads, and you gave a perfect reference about being spent. Reason you were spent is I literally had zero to contribute. I was hanging on for dear life. In one of my earlier shows, I was talking about that my body does not go downhill. I go uphill pretty good, but I cannot go downhill. Downhill, even in a group, I couldn't find any place to go. And you worked really hard that day, but this definitely was a day that I would view. We could have been on gravel bikes. It was very, very limited as far as I think mountain bike technique that was involved. But the fact that you say you were pretty beat up, it's understandable because you did all the work that day out on the gravel. So let's get into stage three because you're going to have some stuff to talk about with this one as well as I did in one of my previous shows. This is where we actually transferred camp. So we had a day that we moved. So we pack up all of our gear, our suitcases, turn them in, and then they transport them. So we went from Montague to Grayton. In this day, it was 5 hours and 15 minutes, 88 miles, 5,800 feet of climbing, minimum temperature of 68, max temperature of 73. One of the keys here, and this is what I brought up in my show, was the speed that we were going when we were leaving Montague, when we were going down the mountain on the
Yep.
actual roads. In my show, I was scared shitless, but we have a max speed of 40 miles an hour, average speed of 16.8, and we finished P8 on this one. So just to refresh your memory, when we left Montague, it was straight out onto that road and through those
Oh, yeah.
mountain passes for hell, I don't know. It felt like we were out there probably 25 or 30 minutes just blazing down this mountain. So or out of Montague. But what do you recall from stage three?
Yeah, so I remember us leaving camp, and I know you said on one of your previous episodes you were like 40 miles an hour, wide bars, in a big group going downhill. I mean that the tension was high, the risk was high, but it's kind of what we do, right? It's kind of what we've signed up for when we go out there and decide to race this thing. But yeah, it was nerve wracking. You'd be certain, we don't know most of the guys that are around us. We don't know how capable they are, how much experience they have riding in groups like that, or how much experience they have riding at those speeds. We just know that they're there and we have to watch out for them. And I think you said, "Hey, if I crash in here, I know I heard this on your show. If I crash here, I might be dead." And
Yeah.
probably not wrong because the fall might not kill you, but the 100 guys that run you over might.
Yeah, and the
Um,
fact that there's traffic coming up the
yeah,
same road at us on the you drive on the opposite side of the road there. So traffic coming at us just at the right side of your handlebar when you're in a pack of in this case 100 people. It's shit.
yeah. No, it was definitely nerve wracking. And then I remember this being a pretty much a rolling stage. It was pretty fast for the distance. It is the longest stage that I have ever done in the Cape Epic. I've never done a stage this long in all my years at the Cape Epic. Um, I remember it being fast, and then we hit the mud. And I know that in your original show, you said, "Well, yeah, it was nice. The weather was nice," and then you came back and
Right.
retracted that. The following episode, you said, "Well, I forgot about the mud." I mean, I will not forget the mud on this day. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I remember at one point we pulled onto a less muddy section of gravelish road, and I remember taking one of my bottles and having to clean out my drivetrain, and you were, maybe 50 yards back doing the same
Yep.
thing. Because we at that point, I mean, it wasn't that my bike wasn't shifting; it was that the chain was jumping off the cassette every time I turned the cranks. So I mean, this epic. Um, a lot of the guys that I have spoken with about it, they were like, "This has been one of the harder ones that we've experienced." And I'm talking about guys that are South African that have done many Cape Epics. I mean, the length, the heat on occasion, the rain, the conditions of the terrain, the actual course was quite challenging. And stage three lived up to it. I mean, I think it was, if memory serves me right, it was like almost 140K. So about 88, 90, just under 90 miles, and the conditions were pretty miserable for I would say the middle third of the day.
Yep.
Um, once we got into all that mud and all that mess, and I remember you and I sharing the thought, "Hey, um, we got to preserve our equipment here." That's probably the most important thing to get us through this stage. We knew our bodies could get through it. It's only stage three. We're in good shape physically. We knew we were okay. But our equipment was taking a beating. Our equipment was taking a beating, and I do remember that exchange where we were like, "Hey, um, let's make sure we're taking care of our bikes here to get across the finish line."
Right. And the when we crossed the finish line, this is where I cloned the sentence dirt camp, but that came from you because it was just this camp was just miserable. I mean, dirt
Oh,
outside of our tents. And then when we crossed the finish line, unfortunately, the gear our gear bags hadn't shown up. I guess the
and so
traffic coming around the mountain, over the mountain, whatever it was. So you saw in the photo, we're covered in head to toe in mud, literally freezing at the moment, and not having any clothes to change into, not being able to take a shower, and it was hell, I don't know, it was like another 2 hours that we had to linger around before finally getting our gear bags and then getting ourselves established. So that stage was in my eyes wasn't a whole lot of fun. But the one thing about it was we never physically got rained on that day. We just happened to
you're
be
right.
going into where the rains had passed already, and the rains were horrendous to make the trail conditions or the stuff that we were on was just man. It was that was a rough day for me. That wasn't the day that cracked me though. So from there we landed in Grayton, stage four. We stayed in Grayton to come back to Grayton the same day. Stage five is when we actually left. In that day, the next day, we were at 4 hours and 33 minutes, 55 miles, another 6,000 feet of climbing, minimum temperature 63, max temperature of 81. Our average speed was 12.2, and we finished P9. Stage 4, Randy, anything you recall from that? And keep in mind that the stage 5 was the Queen stage. So this was the day before the Queen stage.
Yeah, I remember stage 4 was supposed to be pretty mellow, right? If memory serves me right, the vibe around the camp was, yeah, tomorrow will be kind of mellow because the Queen stage is the next day.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being mellow, but I don't remember anything about it. It's just one of those, like I said, like kind of happens at the Epic. You just kind of fall into this rhythm, and that was just one of those days. I don't know if you have anything that you really recall. Um,
I one of the things I do regret is I wish every night or every afternoon when we got done with the stages, I wish I would have keeping some sort of journal in my phone or took some notes as far as what we experienced that day, because what I found after doing my show is that I really didn't recall specific things, and brought up that perfect example, the day that we raced through the mud. I don't even remember it being racing through the mud until I saw the photo and said, oh shit, this
yeah,
actual day. So that's okay. I don't. I think you're right. I think the theme around the camp was the fact that Queen Stage was on Friday. Let's get ready for that. So you're right. Thursday was a little bit of a mellow day. So stage five. This is a good one, Randy.
yeah,
They call it the Queen stage. This was a transfer day, so we left Grayton and we were on our way to Stellenbosch. Same thing, had to pack up our tents, pack up all the gear, turn our suitcases in, and they transport them over to Stellenbosch. On this day, and I refer to it as Randy's crash day. I gave my take in one of the prior shows of exactly what happened because I witnessed it. We're going to hear what your take is on it. This day took us 7 hours and 11 minutes on the bike. 7 hours and
long day.
11 minutes. Yes, 83 miles, 8,400 feet of climbing, minimum temperature of 61. To me, that's actually a key thing when I said minimum temperature of 61, because in my head, I thought it was 10 below zero.
Yeah,
I literally wanted to die. And that's exactly what I said. But minimum temperature was 61, max temperature was 70, 75. So relatively cool for most of the day. Our max speed 37, average speed 11.9, and we finished P12. So again, I'm referring to that one as Randy's crash. Take us through the Queen stage, Randy.
yeah. So the Queen stage started in typical fashion. I think it was kind of rolling that we had a group, and it seemed like I ended up on the front of the group, and you a couple times, and you were like, "Look, we're not doing a damn thing anymore. No one else is pulling through." We had like a bunch of people behind us that were just kind of sitting on, and you made the executive decision on of, hey, if they're not going to work, we're not going to work. So we sat back and kind of rolled. Um, and then I remember the crash vividly, where we came to a section where we're crossing just like a small creek, um, and and when I took the right line on the creek, and I know that you were behind me, but you took the left line, I want to say, on the creek, and you stayed on the high line on the Jeep road, and I was down on kind of like a low line. There was a ridge in between, and I wanted to come over and be on the same line that you were on, um, just because in my head I thought it was a better line. It probably wasn't. It was probably the same. There was probably no reason to do it, but it was muddy, and I fell violently there. Like I fell really really hard there. Um, Whacked my head pretty good, which really was inconsequential, to be honest with you. It wasn't nothing. I didn't really ring my bell or anything like that. It didn't go back to my old glory days of playing football and getting my head knocked around. Uh, but unfortunately, the top tube on my bike hit my knee so hard that although I probably didn't feel it till the last, I don't know, the last quarter of that stage, but it really, really started to make it hard for me to get up and over the top of the pedal stroke. And and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, when we get into stage 6 and ultimately stage 7. But that really, really kind of um, hindered my performance for the last for the end of stage 5, and then stage 6 and stage 7 for sure. Um, Regarding the weather, I mean, you're absolutely right. We were wet all day. I mean, it was cold and it was miserable, and there were times where we were literally in the cloud. Like, I remember literally being in the cloud for God knows how long, and then we had that mandatory portage where we had to walk downhill. And there's one thing, I'm going to assume that most of the people watching this podcast are cyclists, but if you're not a cyclist, or if you're new to cycling, you will quickly learn that cyclists do not like to walk. And we really don't like to walk down, and we don't like to walk downhill on slippery rocks with our bikes in our hands. And we had to do all of those things. And I think it's like a kilometer or something downhill. It's not a short little, couple steps here,
Right. It's not a
It's
quick dismount.
no, it's not a quick dismount. You're going downhill for a while. And if you think you're going to run it, you're wrong. Not in those conditions, you weren't going to run it.
Yeah, I was because
Uh,
2019 when we did it though, it was a little, you could have a little bit more of hustle behind your footsteps,
well,
but not this
dry.
year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was dry. It was absolutely dry, and this year it was just slimy and muddy and just bad. Um, you wanted to, you didn't know if your next step was going to be a good one, right? You're kind of putting some weight on your bike like a crutch and trying to keep your bike from getting banged up on the rocks, and then taking a leap of faith on that next step. It was quite the challenge. And then they rewarded us. We came down from that mandatory portage, and we climbed a section of trail they call the neck. And if you've seen the profile for the Queen stage, it's almost straight up. It looks like a straight up peak. And I want to say it was maybe 12 miles. I don't remember. I do remember that Marius said, "Hey, when you're at this point of the neck, if you look across, you could see my house." I really wasn't looking for his house at that point. Uh, so we get to the top of the neck and thinking, all right, well, we've climbed this thing. We're going to drop into Stellenbosch. We're going to get some great single track. And what we got was bone rattling, jarring, just miserable downhill. And it was rocky. It was loose. It was wet. It would knock your fillings out of your teeth, almost
Yeah.
literally. And you're doing everything you can in your power just to control the speed of your bicycle. There was no just letting go and letting the bike roll. And that section really, if there's one section that really was, I don't know about upsetting, but really just challenging and miserable, and it was that. Like, that was just, I mean, what was it, like probably 15 minutes of that stuff just going
Yeah,
downhill, maybe
I agree.
longer.
I covered it in the other episodes that if we're done climbing, at least reward us with something fun. And most of the time they did. But this
Yeah,
particular day, this Queen stage of I was frozen, I was miserable. You were banged up from your crash. Just finish climbing this horrible day, and you get rewarded with a Jeep road that we get to go down at 37 miles an hour, just hanging on for dear life. No, nothing groomed. Just it really did not reward the day at all. The only good part, I think, was when this stage was over, we went into Stellenbosch, and the camp in Stellenbosch was beautiful. It was perfect.
yeah,
Grass everywhere, no
yeah.
no dirt that you're
No
dragging
turn.
through your through your camp. When so that day when we finished on stage 5, the Queen stage, and you really started to assess your knee, what was the emotion you were going through at the end of that Queen stage when you're laying in the tent or in the medic tent getting your knee taken care of, and then the end of the day in your tent, and then waking up the morning of stage 6? What was that emotion that you were going through with regards to the Cape Epic, with regards to everything that you had invested in wanting to go and perform? Where were you emotionally?
Yeah, so in my head, um there was no doubt that we were going to finish, even with how bad my knee was banged up. I had no doubt that I would cross the finish line. So that kind of took that concern out. I didn't think I was seriously injured. I was hurt, pretty seriously hurt. But I had an old football coach that used to ask me, "Are you hurt or are you injured?" I'm like, "What's the difference?" Well, if you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you're out. And I knew that I
That's a good
wasn't
one.
injured. I knew that I was hurt and that my performance was going to be compromised, and that was a tough pill to swallow because it's not just my performance that's going to suffer; it's mine and my teammates' performance. We're there as a team, and you really have to think about. I made a bad decision, resulted in a crash. Now I'm beat up, and now as a team, we're going to be slower. And that's a tough pill to swallow when you're faced with that. Fortunately, you're a great teammate. We've been friends for a very long time. You understand what it's like to do what we do, probably better than anyone. You know that my character, and you know how hard I'll push myself and everything that I will push through. So I think that um, I don't think that the conversation ever happened, but we knew that we were handicapped by my injury. I remember at dinner last night, Marita. I remember asking her because she had fallen and hurt her shoulder, and I asked her, "Hey, what did you do? Did you go to medical?" And because I hadn't gone to medical yet, we were at dinner. I hadn't gone to medical yet, and she said, "Yeah, I went to medical, but remember, if you go to medical and they think that it's in your best interest to pull out, they're going to pull
Oh,
you out." So she said, "But I also went to the physio and go see so and so, and now I forgot his name, but he really took good care of me." I went over to see the physio. I asked for him, and I remember that first night. He did some red light therapy. He taped me up, and unfortunately, I think I wasn't able to verbalize exactly what I was feeling or where the trouble spot was. I wasn't being able to verbalize that to him till Saturday. And I think if I would have been able to tell him, "Hey, I'm really struggling getting over the top of the pedal stroke," he may have taped me a little differently, more like he taped me on Saturday night, which allowed me to pedal with a little more integrity. Um, and I'm sure we'll get into stage 6 here shortly.
yeah.
Stage 6 is an absolute nightmare for me. I just couldn't turn the cranks.
Yeah, so coming off of that, you said a couple things that was very important. Number one is when I talk to people and I tell them about what we went through or what you went through with the crash, I said there was one thing that I was confident, and it was that you were going to finish. And I say that, but for me, there was a moment in stage 6 where I did question it. And what occurred at the moment that I did question it, I said something to you. And I was starting to question in my head because you really were struggling, like you said, to turn over the cranks, a pace that I'm like, it was, it hurt because I'm like, I don't know if he could do this or not. So I did question at that moment. I'm like shit, I don't know if we're gonna actually be able to finish it. And I simply vocalized my thought at that moment, and I think it changed for us. And what I said to you at that moment, I said, for the younger fans out there, sorry, I said, Randy, are you ready to put your fucking pride aside and let me help? And you
Yeah, I
said to
remember.
me, you said to me, whatever you want to do, man. And then from that point is when I put my hand on your back and I helped. And I think that was the second wind that I needed, that knew, because I was strong enough to do it, that I knew we are going to finish this together. And that was the wind that I think you needed at that moment also to say, okay, we are gonna finish this together. To lead in from there, we're going to talk about stage 6 because this I think is a relevant part. So this conversation came in stage 6. We were in Stellenbosch and we looped in Stellenbosch. We finished out stage 7 in Stellenbosch also. And I have a note here, and it says Randy's second crash. And I think this is what happened. You and I never really discussed this, but this is what I believe happened. We were out there for 5 hours and 2 minutes, 48 miles, 6,600 feet of climbing. My computer didn't register temperature, a max speed of 34, average speed of 9.9. It's pretty bad. Position P21 on that day. But when I said to you, you want me to, or can I help? And you said, whatever you want to do. And I started to help. One of the significant things, and this is where you cracked pretty bad, but we talked you through it, was I worked pretty hard pushing us up one of these fire roads. It was a wide open gravel fire road, and like to stay with the group that we were with, and it was good. I was putting in the effort, and I got us just about to the top of the fire road, and then it took a sweeping right hand turn, and for the most part off camber. What I felt like in that moment was I had done that work of pushing you to the top of the hill, or getting us to the top of this main fire road, and on the downhills you wanted to reward, in my eyes, reward me for the effort and really motor us down the hill. And unfortunately, you tucked the front in an off camber right gravel and just slid across the gravel. That was the second point that I'm like, oh shit. I don't know about this now, because your level of anger at that point, and I don't know if the anger was shit, I just crashed again, or shit, Bob just put in all this hard work to get us up here, and I just blew this again. We talked through it and went back to pushing. But what was your experience on that stage 6?
So that last crash was stage 7. It was our last day.
Oh, that was the final day. Okay.
It was the final day. Yeah, yeah. That last crash was the final day. Going back to stage 6. Um, yeah, I was in a dark place on stage 6. I couldn't turn the cranks over. My RPE is at 10 and my watts are on the floor. And I remember we looked at it afterwards back in Cape Town, and I think my average heart rate for stage 6 was under 120. I couldn't do anything right on that day. I couldn't do anything. I could point the bike downhill. Fortunately, yeah, we did have some, stage 6 and even stage 7. Um, Less so stage 7. Stage 6 really sucked for me going uphill and in the flats even. But when we went downhill, I was able to do
Yeah, we
that
were
and
rolling.
rewarded on that day. Being in Stellenbosch, I mean the single track in Stellenbosch, the man-made single track in Stellenbosch is one of a kind, and world renowned single track. But stage 6, I mean, mentally and physically was just an absolute browbeating. And I remember when we got back to camp, um, I was like, well, we got one more stage to go. And I ate, I showered, I got dressed, and I think I spent the rest of my day at the physio tent.
Yeah, you were in
Uh,
there for about 4 hours that day.
yeah, I think I was in there for about 4 hours. But on that day, I was able to vocalize what I was feeling on the bicycle to the physio. I went in there, I got a massage, I had compression treatment, I had red light treatment, I got taped up. I mean, I was there all day, and I figured this is what I got to do to get through this last stage. Um, and when I was able to verbalize to him what I was feeling, hey, I can't get myself up and over the top of the pedal stroke. He taped me a little bit differently, and I feel like stage 7 still wasn't great, but I was able to pedal with a little more integrity. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't I wasn't really. I want to say that you said that at the start. I think the whole first. I'm going to go 20K, but it may have been longer than that. It may have been 30K. Was trended uphill, and you said something to me like, "Just get us here." And I said, "Okay, I will get us. I will get us there." And I think it was
Right.
it was mostly uphill, and I got us there, and then you started to come around and push me, and we were still having fun on the downhills. I mean, I don't think uh, that changed much. We were really able to enjoy the single track.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And then yeah, we were getting close to the finish, and I want to say we were probably 2/3 of the way through the stage. And you said it exactly right. You had pushed me up this wide open fire road, and you pushed me up over the top, and I went to point it downhill, and the bike started to drift to the left a little bit, and I I was probably going over 20 miles an hour at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have let the bike fall into the drainage ditch and just kind of stand it back up there. But I tried to save it, and the bike, the front end tucked, and I slid. I don't know how long I slid.
Yeah, you
Uh,
slid for about 30 feet.
yeah, I slid for quite a bit. My hand was raw, my knee was raw, and I I wasn't. None of it hurt really. It wasn't a sudden stop like that first crash. I just slid and got a little bit of road rash, if anything. But it was like damn it, we've been going pretty good on stage 7. Bob's been working his ass off, and now I make this mistake. I kind of screwed this up, and that really, I mean, how upset I was.
Right.
um, I didn't have anything nice to say to myself at that point. And then you know you kind of got to forget it and keep going forward, right? It's like, hey, get back on your bike, we got to go. And that's what we did.
Right.
And we finished it, and we finished it off with some integrity, and we were able to you know salvage a top 10 finish at the Cape Epic in our age group, and finish in the top 100. Those are things that we can't take for granted, right? Those are big accomplishments. And you know oh, what if I wouldn't have crashed? Well, I did. So if the queen
Right.
if the queen had balls, she'd be king, but she doesn't. So you just got to live with the way it happened. And yeah, we crashed, and that was just part of the experience. But I think it's a performance that I'm proud of. I think it's a performance that I hope that you're proud of. um it doesn't always go right. I've lined up for 5 Cape Epics, and I've finished 5. That's pretty special.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of people that can say that.
Yeah.
um it's special, and it's pretty fortunate, and I chalk it down to good preparation and good fitness, but there's some luck involved, of course.
Absolutely. So the
And
final, we just touched into it. So the final stage was Stellenbosch, and we looped back to Stellenbosch for stage 7. We were out there for another 3 hours and 22 minutes, 36 miles, 4,800 feet of climbing. 64 degrees was the minimum, 86 was the high. Max speed was 31. Our average speed was 10.7. And like Randy just said, redeemed ourselves back to P13. So overall, a great experience. So what did all of that equate to? It equated to 36 hours and 4 minutes of racing our bicycles over 8 days, prologue in 7 stages, 440 miles, 52,000 feet of elevation gain in those 8 days, P8 in class, 95 in GC. But most of all, my bank account's $10,000 less. But you know what? It was worth every penny to have that experience with you, Randy, and I won't do it with anybody else. And I appreciate your hard work and making sure that we were gonna finish that. Talk to me briefly about the preparation. I talk a lot in my shows about training partners, things like that. But how far back? And in for me, it's about 9 months. When we did it in 2019, I started to refine my training about 9 months earlier. With this one, I know it was you had your heart issues getting that fixed, but how did what would be the training that you put yourself through to get yourself to be prepared to race 8 days in South Africa with a partner?
Wow, great question. So let's go back to June. On June 3rd of last year, I had my surgical procedure, to get that arrhythmia fixed in my heart. And then it was kind of a slow build for about 2 or 3 months, really just trying to get back to zero essentially, right? You have to take a couple steps back, and then you're trying to get back to zero. And then fortunately, I got invited to a gravel stage race at the end of October in South Africa, and I said, well, if there's any way to figure out if I'm going to be ready to go to the Cape Epic, then this is it, right? Like this is a great opportunity for me to go out to South Africa, race. In this case, it was 7 days and 500 miles, and really work on the preparation towards that, similar to what I'd be doing for the Cape Epic, and use that as a trial run. And it was an event that went fairly well, and the training really was, a combination of increasing volume and intensity, right? You're I guess in many cases, and I am not a coach, nor do I pretend to be one, but I think a lot of times you kind of trade volume for intensity, right? The volume goes up, the intensity goes down, the intensity goes up, the volume tends to go down in order to keep some type of balance. Um, when you're preparing for a race like the Cape Epic, it's almost like you gotta build both, right? You got to build that diesel engine to get you through the 8 days of racing, but you also got to build that high end, right? That F1 RPM that you need in order to be competitive. Number one, because the race has only gotten faster since I first did it almost a decade ago. Number two, the terrain itself really requires you to put in some high end efforts. And I wouldn't say that you're going anaerobic at any real point, but you will get into VO2 max and obviously threshold and VO2 max, and those are the types of things that we really worked on. So my preparation really started as, once we made the decision that we were going to go, um, my preparation for this event really started immediately post surgery. My thought process was the next big event for me is the Cape Epic. So as soon as I got out of surgery, the process really began, and it was really a build. I had numbers in mind. I told my coach, I think I want to be at about a 120 CTL, 120 fitness by the time we get to the Cape Epic, and that's what we did. I think I got on the plane like at a 126 or something like that, and I think when we
Mm-hmm.
started, just under 120. And all of that is good and great. All of the preparation. There's no way to get around doing all of the work that you need to go to prepare yourself for the Cape Epic. But a big part of the training is also that mental and emotional side. If you get on that airplane to go to the Cape Epic and you have any doubt in your mind that you are fit and ready to finish that event, you've already lost. You
Right.
have to get on that airplane knowing without any doubt that you've done all of the work necessary to get across that finish line. Because if you have any doubt, it's just gonna eat away at you. And all the preparation in the world, and let me restate that, all the physical preparation in the world really cannot prepare you for what you're going to face out there. I think I had a 2000 TSS week.
Mm-hmm.
I dare you to find a 2000 TSS week on anyone, maybe a world tour level pro. You just can't do it. You can't replicate what you're going to put yourself through in training, or what you're going to put yourself through at the Cape Epic in training. It just doesn't exist. You can push the limits of your training, but you're just never going to get there. And you really have to fall back on that mental preparation where you're saying, yeah, my form today is -40 or -50, but I'm going to turn the cranks for 3 or 4 hours, and I'm going to get across that finish line today. And tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing.
Right.
You know?
When you wake up every day, you don't have a choice. And that was kind of the conversation that we had with each other, uh, with Val Leo and us every morning. It's when that gun goes off, guess what? You got to go. What you did yesterday is absolutely irrelevant. What you're going to have to do tomorrow is absolutely irrelevant. Also, all you have is that moment. What would you say is an average? Now we're going to get into a little bit into training peaks, and then we'll wrap up from there. for my guys and girls that follow Training Peaks. What is your goal when it comes to the TSS? What kind of numbers do you look at to try and push every week for yourself? Not necessarily leading up to the Cape Epic, but on average, just from a training perspective, what kind of numbers are you looking at?
On work weeks, I'm looking at something like 8 to 900 TSS a week.
Okay.
It
And
is
how does
usually
that, obviously it's a relative number, but what does that translate over to in miles? Obviously there's intensity, things like that that are going to affect it, but what would you view as an average miles week for yourself?
somewhere between 250 and 275 is probably right in the middle of that average. If I had to pick the middle of the bell curve, I'm probably in that 250 to 275 range per week.
Okay.
Per week.
I think
Over
I think
the day.
for anybody out there that isn't necessarily familiar with Randy, in my opinion, he is a testament of dedication to the sport, coming from knowing nothing about it and then being able to compete in 5 Cape Epics, doing all the gravel races he does, travel in the being fortunate to travel the world together and do all these races. But it's week in and week out, month in and month out, discipline behind the sport, consistency. It's not it sounds horrible to say, but in my opinion, this isn't rocket science what we're trying to do. It's about consistency. I had an interesting conversation with somebody last week. They came in the shop and they said to me, "I'm coming back. I'm ready to get back after like a 6 month hiatus." In my head, I'm very encouraging. Yeah, you're gonna get back. Deep down inside, this is a sport that you cannot come back. In my opinion, it's much easier to stay into it, to stay consistent. You cannot go away. And the reason I say that, and from a competitive perspective, is my competitors aren't going away. Randy, your competitors aren't going away. When
No,
you
they're
say
not.
I'm coming back, you got to bridge a gap that your competitors never went away, and then you also set a bar for yourself thinking that you're going to come back to what you were. It's an incorrect thought process to have. Biggest mistake I think for cyclists is to go away. It's much easier just to stay into the sport. And I use you as the example all the time about what does it take to go from nothing to being a decade plus athlete that's really good. It's that consistency, that discipline, and that buy-in to the entire sport. You don't have downtime. Yes, you had a hiatus because of getting your heart fixed, but you cannot have any downtime. So I think one of the other things that is extremely important and for the Cape Epic is the partnership, is finding the good partner. And you and I have the same thought process. We work very well together. And I was out training as hard as I was and doing the things that I was doing because I didn't want to let you down. If you don't have that same passion and that same desire that you want to put everything out there for your partner, those days get really, really hard to do. When you're choosing, or anybody that's looking to do the Cape Epic in the future, I do recommend it, but be honest with yourself and be honest with your partner. The first time Randy and I went to the Cape Epic, I came back with the same story. There's two ways you go to the Cape Epic. Number one is to race it. Number two is to experience it. If you're going to race it, you're going to experience nothing. Nothing. You're not going to take anything in because your head's down and you're at the grind. If you don't want to race it and you want to experience, pick the correct partner. Because if you got a partner that wants to race it and you got a partner that wants to experience it, you're going to finish it. You're going to try and be a solo finisher on your own. And then holding yourself accountable to training and getting and taking advantage of every moment that you have to try and get ready. I know for a fact that you put in the hard work. I know for a fact that I damn sure put in the hard work because I didn't want to let you down, and that's part of the reason that we've been pretty successful for our 2 attempts at the Absa Cape Epic. So again, using you as the example, man, it's you're a testament to the sport. I don't view myself as a testament to the sport because I've been into it for so long. I've been into it for 33 years racing. I'm just pretty good because I'm relentless and have been doing it for three decades. You're really good at it because you're persistent about the training, about the diet, nutrition, everything that goes along with it, and wanting to be better and better on your bike. So thank you for the effort that you put in and trying to get us through that event, and thank you for the effort of being so banged up and knowing that we are gonna finish this thing out.
Yeah, we were going to finish it one way or another. And I mean, the words that you just shared couldn't be truer. You know, the you have to really fall in love with the sport, and the sport isn't race day. The sport is 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark by yourself. You don't feel like going out there, but you got to do it because you know that you're going to be better and you're going to feel better, and everything is going to be better when you're done at the end of that training session. That's the sport. You know, if you don't fall in love with that, it's very difficult. It's a very, very difficult sport to not only participate in, but to have any kind of success. And if you go and see the guys that are having any kind of success at any level, from the amateur level, guys and girls, obviously, from the amateur level to the top level, they fall in love with what is the sport. And again, the sport isn't race day. Race day is that cherry on top of the ice cream, right? You know, that one opportunity a week, a month, every couple of months that you get to really show off what you've been doing when nobody's watching, right? In the dark, when there's no one cheering you on, right? There aren't 100 kids from the village or the town cheering you on as you go by, you know, at 5 a.m. out on the levee or out on Key Biscayne where I'm at. You're just kind of out there on your own in the dark, and that's really what it's all about. I mean, if you fall in love with that, you'll have success in this sport. If you don't fall in love with that, it's a very, very, very tough road.
You
And
better you better love the process and let the results be an act. Let the results come because of loving the process. Because if you don't love the process, this is not a sport that is a whole lot of fun. Randy, couple more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap up. I appreciate you taking your valuable time with myself today on HLS. You're big on the social media side. How does anyone follow all the things that it is that you're doing?
oh yeah, the easiest way to follow me is on Instagram. It's Randy underscore Egues, Egues. I'm also on Strava. So if you want to see what I do on the bike day in and day out, I don't hide a thing. You can see it all right there, and see that we're not just talking about what we do. We actually go out and do it. So those are probably the two easiest, best places to find me. And then if you want to ride with me, Friday mornings, I'm at Virginia Key at 7:30. Unless I'm traveling, I'm there. And I'll usually post something on Instagram confirming that I'm going to be there, or if I'm not going to be there. But yeah, Fridays at 5:30. Everyone's welcome. It's a really mellow, fun ride. We just think about it as a good way to kick off the weekend.
There you go. I have a couple of my clients that go out there and ride with Randy every Friday morning at 7:30. So it's a great ride, a great way to get on to Virginia Key, learn a little bit something behind the trails, and learn from somebody that knows how to ride the bike. Tell us two last things. Tell us a little bit about Max Cycle and Fitness. You've been with them forever. I alluded in the beginning that you're riding Specialized and you're on the Epic 9, the newest Specialized release. You don't have to tell me about that bike, but tell me a little bit about Max Cycling and Fitness.
Oh man, Max Cycle and Fitness. I guess they're my first and only ever bike shop sponsor. I've been with them since 2015, maybe. My partner, girlfriend, wife is one of the owners of the shop. It's an all-female owned business. Mary Jane, Sandy, and Rachel run the shop. The shop's been around since 1957. So next year they're
Oh
going to
wow.
sell their 70th anniversary. Mary Jane's
Wow.
father, which is Rachel and Sandy's grandfather, started the shop. It started out as a lawnmower shop in 1957. And And when Schwinn bikes came around, and one of his friends opened a Schwinn shop in the Midwest and showed him that he didn't have to deal with gasoline and lawnmowers and that type of stuff, that he could sell bicycles for a living, he quickly transitioned. And the bike shop's been in the family ever since. If you haven't been there, you got to stop by. There's some incredible history in the shop, some real incredible history.
Where exactly are they located?
They're located in South Miami, on Sunset Drive, 5995 Sunset Drive, just west of US 1 on Sunset Drive.
Okay. Yeah, great shop that has been there forever. If there was one being an older athlete or aging athlete, if there was
Wow.
one piece of hey, listen, it's the truth. If
Yeah.
there was one piece of advice that you could give to an up and coming athlete, based on some of the experiences that you've gone through, so they don't have to go through the same experience, what piece of advice might you give to somebody that wants to follow maybe the same path as you?
Wow, that's a great question. You got me here. I need to put a little bit of thought into this. Um, I think we've talked about a little bit about falling in love with the sport and falling in love with the process. That's a huge part of it. Really committing to doing all of the little things and doing them well. This someone told me a long time ago, and I couldn't tell you who it was or if it was a quote or whatnot. But the way you do the little things is the way you do everything. So if you really pay attention to the details and really take your time to do everything well, it kind of sprawls from there, right? Like if you do your meal prep well, that turns into you doing your workouts well, and that turns into you doing your recovery well, and that turns into you performing well on race day. All of those things are tied together, and that habit of doing things and committing and really, really um, paying attention and putting the same effort into everything you do will really compound on itself and get you to your goal, whatever your goal may be. Your goal may be to ride 100 miles. Well, you got to start at riding the first 5 miles well, and learning how to eat on the bike and learning how to drink on the bike. And as you start to build upon those things, they grow exponentially, and eventually you're at the Cape Epic, right? Um,
There you
there,
go.
you know,
One of our guys, one of my guys, one of our guys, because he rides with you on the Friday rides, Alex. He sent me a text. He sent me a text yesterday, and it was a one liner that I'm like, man, it's really good, and it ties into exactly what you're saying. And he would encourage his employees to. The sentence was strive for perfection and achieve excellence. And that's the same concept of what you're saying, is focus in on all the details, try to be really good at all the details, and you're gonna be successful in the sport. I think exactly what you're saying, that this is a great sport to get into. It's healthy, that's for damn sure. But the bottom line is, you really do have to love riding your bike. So again, if you want to hang out with Randy and ride with him out on Virginia Key, 7:30 every Friday, as long as he's in town and not somewhere off in the world racing his bike. In addition to Max Cycle and Fitness and Specialized, any other sponsors, anybody else that helps you do what it is that you're doing on the bike?
yeah, yeah. I obviously get a lot of support from Specialized, and they're obviously making some great bikes over there. The family over at ESI Grips, they're great people. I really love the fact and the support. I really love them and the support that I get from them. My good friend Fausti, the endodontist, he's been supporting me since day one. I mean, it's incredible. He's had my back. My cousin Vito as well. He's a big supporter of me.
What's
Um,
the what's the name of Fausti's company?
FDG Endodontics, Fausti
And he's
Danielle Garcia Endodontics in South Miami.
South Miami. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So if you need a root canal, he's your guy. My apparel is all provided by ASOS. I could not be happier with the kits, the fit, the comfort, the durability. It's absolutely incredible, and I really couldn't do the things that I do without the little bit of support that I get from all of these people, companies, families, friends. It really helps me achieve my goals.
That's awesome. Those are a bunch of great companies that's supporting you. Randy, I've taken way too much of your time today on the middle of your work day. I can clearly see that you're in the office right now. So thank your bosses for letting you step aside to come on HLS today. I wish you the best for anything else that you're doing in the future. I clearly am going to be training with you in out of 24 hours from now, or 36 hours from now. So I'll see you. I'll see you soon. And as far as the Unbound, I know you're gonna crush it out there, and then at nationals also. So once again, Randy, thank you so much for coming on Hook, Line, and Shifter today. I look forward to hearing about all your successes in the future. So thank you again for everything.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for all the guidance over the years. I know you've been a huge part of any and all of my success. Bob you've been a great role model and a great mentor, and obviously a great friend to me. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. Be well, Randy.
Yep, you too. Thank you, Bob.
All right. All right, what a great interview with my partner, Randy Egues. We did the Absa Cape Epic in 2019 together, have traveled the world together. Some of the topics that came up, I really appreciated hearing his take on it, because some of the things I actually didn't even remember. You've watched for the last 4 episodes my take on everything that I experience from my perspective. It was great. It was great having Randy on and learning everything from that he went through on the entire event. So I hope you like that, as well as hearing about his escapades and his rise for the last 15 years into the sport and what it takes. Again, I appreciate Randy coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, next thing, Moto Monday. Another Moto Monday, different perspective. Going to take you through the warm-up loop, the advanced section of the warm-up loop, deep dark forest, morning wood cut through in deep dark forest, into rock garden, out of rock garden, across the trail into Deer Island. Deer Island I have no footage of in any of my other episodes, so I hope you enjoy this one. Another Moto Monday. Hope you enjoy it. All right, and here we go for the Moto Monday. Off to the right side is the pump track, and we're going to make a left into the warm-up loop. Bunch of fast-flowing berms. Going to call it a little bit of hero dirt tonight. There was some moisture in the soil, so the trail conditions were really fast. Around this next turn, we're going to bang a hard right. This is going to take us into the advanced section, a small log over. Once we go over the log over, there's going to be some roots in front of us. Just a quick hop over those roots. And at the end of all this is going to be a left-hand turn up onto a wood bridge. At the end of the wood bridge, a little bit of a drop, 2 ways to do it. Push the front end down or pick the front up and hop off. All right, so this is the advanced section of the warm-up loop at Markham Park. At the end of all of this, there's going to be a paver. There's going to be a piece of concrete to a paver drop. When you go down something, you want to lower your chest as far as you can down to those handlebars so that you have the ability to push the bicycle down, keeping your head and shoulders stable. That's it, pushing that bike down. We're merging back onto the warm-up loop. At the end of all this, going to head up some pavers and drop down to the left. On this straightaway here, a lot of times I'm focusing in on my hands, trying to keep my hands as loose as I can on the handlebars. If I'm evaluating the trail properly and I don't need to hold on to those handlebars, I want to relieve some of the stress in my hands. My ESI grips do a great job of keeping my hands numb, but it's not the end-all be-all. In some cases, you're grabbing so hard onto that handlebar all the time let your hands wind up going numb. So really do a good job of trying to evaluate the trail and decide how hard you actually have to hold on to the handlebars. Around this, we're going to go ahead and make a right-hand turn off to the left with side chick. And we're going to hop out of the trail, cross over, paying attention to traffic, and we're going to make our way into deep dark forest. There's a small double on entry. Carrying the momentum, you wind up floating up and over this double. Had this in one of the last episodes. Alright, next thing's going to be a left-hand turn into Morning Wood. It's a wood double. It's actually not that hard to clear. Kind of a small gap. And now we're deep into deep dark forest. Once again, I've said in the other episodes, paying attention to my line selection, my legs, and my limbs. Really focus in on exactly where that front wheel is. I'm constantly trying to put it in the right place. Off to the left here is Rock Garden. Dropping down this trail, again, picking up on my lines. Going to climb up, make a left, and we're going to go down a small skinny of rock. Now we're into the heart of Rock Garden. Line selection, constantly trying to put that front wheel exactly in the right spot. Out of this can be a rock over, and then a climb up to the right, and we're going to drop down to the left, small rock drop. And we're at the southernmost point of Rock Garden, and we're going to make our way back north. A couple of tight trees to negotiate right there. And again, focusing in on the lines. If you really slow this down, you might get an opportunity to see that I'm always trying to put that front wheel in the right spot. So a Rock Garden we got to go through. Alright, and then at the end of this, it's going to have a little climb to a right-hand turn and dropping down some rocks, kind of a rock skinny, and then we're going to make a U-turn left, across the trail, into Deer Island. Alright, crossing over the trail into Deer Island. What is significant about Deer Island? Deer Island is an extremely, in my eyes, challenging trail. One of the reasons it's a challenging trail is tight and twisty, a shit ton of roots that you're trying to get on top of. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth. The faster you go, the easier this trail is. All the bumps and all the roots aren't as violent. You can see here I'm trying to pick up the front wheel as much as I can, avoiding running into things, but at the same time I want to make sure that I have my proper line selection. Again, the 3 L's, lines, legs, and limbs. I'll say it till blue in the face. Make sure you focus in on those lines, legs, and limbs. Where's that front wheel? Always focusing in exactly where it needs to be.
Oh shit, sorry Matt.
Cutting one of my friends off there. Sorry, Matt. What's interesting about this trail is that the more times you do it, the better it actually gets. You can start pick your lines a little bit better, get some more confident. On this particular day, I'm running my Pirelli M tire in the front, and I'm running my XC-RC in the rear. Both tires are 2.4 in width, and 14 PSI in the front, 17 PSI in the rear. Normally I run 16, but because of the roots and some of the square edges, I felt a little more confident running 17 in the rear just in case I happen to hit something. Didn't want to blow out a carbon rim and didn't want to destroy a tire for any reason. So as you can see from all this, a lot of twists and turns. But again, keeping that bike at speed, focusing in on where that front wheel is, really hitting your marks. Remember your marks from the last episode. Your marks are anything inside the trail that's going to help guide you. Marks could be a root, could be the bottom of a tree, could be a rock, and in some cases it could be a different colored leaf. It's going to help me decide. When you're riding through the trail, you're always trying to connect your dots or connect your marks, hit your marks, focusing in on your line selection. Legs. 4 things that I think about with legs. Am I going to be in the saddle pedaling? Am I in the saddle with my outside leg down? Am I standing with my outside leg forward? And the final one, am I standing with my outside leg down? Kind of an aggressive position. In this trail, I am using all 4 positions. Some corners I pedal through, some I coast through with my outside leg down, level 2. Some I stand up with my outside leg forward, level 3. And some I really get aggressive and stand up with the saddle down, outside leg down also in a level 4. To me, this is a great trail to practice mountain biking. Why? Because it beats the crap out of you and really makes you focus in on your efficiency and focus in on gears. Don't be afraid to shift, and shift a lot. Fortunate to be on electronic shifting. Doesn't cost you anything to shift. It's free. Experiment with it. Click those gears off. I sometimes reference the 12 hours of Santos. I shift 12,000 times in the 12 hours of Santos, or 11,000 times, somewhere around there. What does it come out to? Approximately every 3 seconds, I'm clicking off gears. Never complacent in the gear that I'm in, always trying to seek the efficiency of my power, the efficiency of the trail conditions, and what kind of speed can be generated just by simply clicking 1 or 2 gears. Don't be afraid to shift. Obviously, this is another Moto Monday. I believe right now I have Marco, my teammate Marco, chasing me down. Having a lot of fun out there today. Deer Island is about a 6.5 minute loop, and we're going to pop out here to the left. Off to the right was the actual entrance, and head down the fire road. You're going to see the second half of the jump line over on the left side. Super fun also. And right at the end of this, we're going to head back in for lap 2 of Moto Monday. I hope you enjoyed that commentary on it. Enjoy lap 2. Check out those lines. Make sure I'm hitting my marks, and you do the same. All right. Hope you liked that Moto Monday for Markham Park. A couple sections that I don't normally put in. Again, focusing in on those lines, legs, and limbs. Don't be afraid to practice mountain biking. Practice mountain biking is not riding a local park for one lap of 50 minutes. Practicing mountain biking is 5 10-minute laps, 10 5-minute laps, whatever it takes. Practice the sport. Come on. Stop just riding. Stop just riding the park. Practice. If you suck at something, practice it. Suck at cornering, practice cornering. Multiple times in the same corner. Again, I hope you liked that episode of, or that Moto Monday from Markham Park. What do we got coming up? Next week, I'm going to have the results from FLE number 6 over in Brooksville in Croom. I won't be there. I will have another special guest, probably somebody, not going to say who, probably somebody from that FLE number 6. Different segment of Moto Monday. Next one, I'm going to give a body perspective of the ride. This way you can see the second L of limbs, lines, legs, and limbs. Second L being limbs. So you, being legs. So you can see exactly what my body is doing when I always reference the 4 body positions for cornering, whether I'm in the saddle pedaling, in the saddle outside leg down, standing outside leg forward, or standing outside leg down with the saddle saddle down. Again, I hope you like this episode with Randy and the wrap up for the 2026 Absa Cape Epic. Can't do it without my sponsors. Without them, I don't have the ability to do this. So I appreciate them. And I hope you take advantage of the discount code HLS2026 at some of those select websites and go and get yourself 20% off site-wide. Workus Technologies, the leader in worldwide telecommunication. ESI grips, second to none. U-cycling clothing, it's all that I wear. Very comfortable. Check out their website, ucycling.com. That's YUU. Cycling. MASH Mobile Vet. That's it, man. Get that animal hospital coming straight to your front door. Stop lugging your pets around, stressing yourself out, stressing them out. MASH Mobile Vet will come straight to your front door with an entire mobile animal hospital. Take care of your animals right in your driveway. POC helmets, Envy wheels. Check out them M5 Envy wheels. Pirelli tires. Check out that M Pirelli tire. As of right now, I am using nothing else in the front. Been on that M ever since it came out, so 7-8 months now. Not going to use anything else. Very predictable. And Absolute Black oval chain rings. Once you go to oval, you're never going to go back. Again, thank you so much for watching another episode of Hook, Line, and Shifter. I was your host, Bob McCarty. Please like, share, subscribe, but most of all, I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching another episode. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have another great training week. We'll see you next week. Be well.